Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Danekii, coach of the Tampa Bay Luxrays, and today I'm bringing you guys the Week 2 team builder for the NPL Miners. If you don't know what's going on there, check out the last video where I explain it a little bit. How we were in the tournament, how we did well enough in the tournament, that's how we made it into the NPL Miners. This week we are going to be going up against Danekii. His links will be in the description below. As always, definitely check him out. He uploads the content as well. So before we get into his team, and before we get into my team of 6 to deal with his, I would just like to go over the entirety of my roster, just because I know I did in the last video, and I want to make sure you guys are at least caught up onto what I can potentially bring. So for the entirety of my roster, things that I could potentially bring, it is Tapu Bulu, Mega Sizzlor, Zygarde 10%, Heatran, Reuniclus, Snorlax, Jellicent, Mandibuzz, Chestnut, Dragalge, Lycanroc Midday, and Raichu. If you're wondering what the mons colored in red are, those are called Carnitier, and basically if you get one Carnitier prior to round whenever, you were allowed to pick up another Carnitier mon afterwards. So I picked up Jellicent, and then I was able to pick up an extra mon later on. Granted, I also picked up another Carnitier mon in Lycanroc afterwards, or an extra Carnitier that I didn't need to pick up, but I felt like Lycanroc fit the team relatively well, and I wanted to have it. But with that being said, let's just jump into the team that he could possibly be bringing. This week, Danekii, or well, for his roster, Danekii has Mega Lopunny, Latios, Volcanion, Togekiss, Forretress, Galvantula, Serena, Silvally, Rhyperior, Honchkrow, Salazzle, and Lantern. By the way, I forgot to mention how Z moves work in this league. You're allowed to delegate 3 mons to being able to run Z moves, but they can only be running attacking Z moves. And the mons that I decided to use for my Z move mons are Heatran, Reuniclus, and Dragalge. I could have used Tapu Bulu as well, but Tapu Bulu does like 8 million to everything anyway with Banded Woodhammer, so I didn't really see the point. Heatran, Reuniclus, and Dragalge I think have a little bit more potential to be using Z moves. So, with that being said, you can still see Danekii's team over on the screen there. His Z-move users, or the potential Z-move users he has, are Latios, Volcanion, as well as Honchkrow, so I definitely have to be careful of that. But regardless of his team, which is relatively good, we have our team of 6 that we will be bringing against him to hopefully beat whatever team of 6 he decides to bring. So, starting off, let's get into the team. As you can see, oh, I spoiled that one. This is the fattest team that I have ever built. And the slowest. Like, the fastest thing is going to be Heatran, and you'll see kind of why I built the team the way I did in a little bit. But anyway, to start off, we have our Mega Sizzlor. We have a specially defensive Mega Sizzlor, a little bit of speed, just to make sure that he can't speed creep me with anything. I'm able to outspeed some Volcanion. If he's not running a lot of speed on Volcanion, I can outspeed uninvested Togekiss. I can outspeed a lot of different Honchkrow. I outspeed Rhyperior 100%, which is kind of nice. Same thing with Forretress as well. U-Turn, Bullet Punch, Pursuit, and Roost. I was thinking about going with an SD Sizzlor, but he has things like Volcanion to kind of stop that. He's got Forretress to wall that. Even something like Silvally could be a problem, or even something like Salazzle or Lantern I'm not going to be able to knock out at +2. So I decided to go with a Pursuit Trapping set, which actually works really well, because one of the biggest threats to my team is Latios. And if I can just get rid of that thing by clicking Pursuit, it's going to be really nice. With the special investment that I have, or the special defense investment that I have, HP Fire will not be able to knock me out unless he has Specs, and even then I don't think Specs HP Fire will be able to knock me out after I've Mega Evolved, because Mega Sizzlor has very solid bulk. And if he decides to switch out, I will be able to get that Pursuit off and come close to knocking him out in one hit. And then obviously I can go for Pursuit on the next time that he is in versus me, or I can go for a U-turn, gain myself initiative, and if he stays in with Latios, possibly knock him out as well. So that's Mega Sizzlor. Like I said, the special defense investment is there to take on the Latios as best as possible. It's also going to be able to kind of take on the Mega Lopunny, as well as take on the Togekiss. I'm able to live a Flamethrower, assuming that he's not heavily special attack invested, which is kind of nice. I cannot take a Fire Blast unless he's like no investment at all, but I will be able to take a Flamethrower, which is kind of nice. I can take hits from the Serena easily and beat that thing 1v1. I can take on the Rhyperior if it's not a Fire Punch variant. And I can take on the Lantern a little bit, though obviously I don't want to get burnt. But like I said, this thing's main job is just to Pursuit Trap the Mega Latios, and then possibly get some priority Bullet Punches off onto his Togekiss, as well as some other members of his team to get chip damage for my other Pokemon. So that is our Mega Sizzlor, relatively standard, specially defensive, Pursuit Trapping Mega Sizzlor, meant to deal with his Latios. With that being said, let's get over to the next Pokemon we have on our team, and that is going to be an Assault Vest Dragalge. This is a very big threat against his team. Draco Meteor, Sludge Wave, Dragon Pulse, and Hidden Power Fire. 2 KOs pretty much everything on his team. Draco Meteor is able to knock out the Mega Lopunny. Dragon Pulse hits the Latios and knocks it out. Draco Meteor does a lot to Volcanion, and with the Assault Vest, I'm able to switch into Volcanion relatively comfortably, even though I don't want to take an Earth Power, I can if I have to, and I'm able to switch into, obviously, its Dual Stab. I'm able to deal with the Togekiss easily and knock that thing out. HP Fire kills Fortress after I break that thing sturdy. I knock out the Galvantula, the Serena. You guys can see where I'm getting at with this thing. It is a gigantic threat towards his team. I debated having water coverage like Scald or Hydro Pump for his Rhyperior, but Dragon Pulse and Draco Meteor do enough to that thing anyway, and I wanted to have both Draco and Dragon Pulse, just because Dragon Pulse is the more reliable stab, whereas Draco Meteor is just there in case I want to nuke something. Sludge Wave obviously there for things like the Togekiss, and then HP Fire specifically for that Fortress. 72 speed just in case he wants to try and speed creep me with anything, like if he tries to run a little bit of speed on Rhyperior, I'll be able to outspeed him. Same thing goes with Fortress as well, which is kind of nice. So yeah, that is Argigalgi, very, very big threat against his team. Also helps me switch into the Lantern as well as the Volcanion, like I mentioned. And the Galvantula as well, even, which is kind of nice. I can even live like a Dragon Pulse from the Latios, but he obviously has Psyshock and Draco for that anyway, so I'm not going to stay in with Dragalge versus that thing. But with that being said, that's Dragalge, really good Pokemon versus his team. Next up, we're getting into one of the biggest win conditions of this game, and that is going to be a physically defensive Calm Mind Reuniclus. We are fully physically defensive. We're going to be able to take on things like the Omega Lopunny, which is very nice. I'm not too KO'd by Return, which is awesome. I can take on the Togekiss relatively well. I can set up on things like the Fortress, the Serena, assuming it doesn't have Encore. If it even gets Encore, I'll have to double check that. After a Calm Mind, I'm beating things like Latios, I'm beating things like Volcanion. I can beat things like Silvally, even some things like Honchkrow, for example, if I get up a Calm Mind and he doesn't have something like a Crit Night Slash set. And then if I get up a Calm Mind, I'll also be able to take on like a Life Orb Salazzle, so very big threat to his team there. Psyshock is pretty much the only move that I need for his team, but I also wanted something to hit the Honchkrow, and I thought, you know, why not live a little bit large and go for Thunder, because that's my strongest attack to hit Honchkrow. It'll be able to OHKO that thing even if I don't have a Calm Mind up, which is kind of nice. So even though Thunder is very inaccurate and kind of unreliable, it's really cool to have there. If he switches out into something like Latios trying to deal with me, I can possibly paralyze that thing. It does have a 30% chance to para, which is kind of nice. Same thing with Silvally, depending on what type it is. And if he goes into Lantern to absorb the Thunder, I just set up all over that thing. So very, very big threat versus this team. Like I said, it was necessary for the Lopunny, but it's also, once again, just a very big threat if I'm able to set this thing up, because it can absolutely sweep through his team, because there isn't too much that he has in order to stop it. So that's Reuniclus. Really solid Pokemon versus this team. Next up, we're going over our Mandibuzz. And this is another kind of check to his Mega Lopunny. It's fully physically defensive, knockoff Toxic, Roost, and Defog. Even if he has sub on his Mega Lopunny, I'll still be able to beat it with this thing, because Drain Punch will be doing less, or will be recovering him less than Rocky Helmet is going to do, which is kind of nice. And we're actually running Defog on this Mandibuzz. The biggest reason I'm running Defog is because he does have Sticky Web potential on his Galvantula, and webs are kind of the only problem to this team, which is kind of funny to say because my team is super slow, but there are things like my Heatran as well as my Mega Sizzler that I would like to be able to outspeed certain things on his team. So with that, I decided to run Defog. Again, it wasn't super necessary because my team is already really, really slow, but I did want to have it there. Could also be nice to get rid of Spikes as well as Toxic Spikes from his Fortress if he does decide to bring it, even though I do have... Well, I mean, Toxic Spikes aren't really that big of a problem because they only touch Snorlax, who has Rest, huh? But Spikes could actually be a pretty big issue because they do hit everything bar the Mandibuzz as well as the Reuniclus, so in case I see Spikes to be a problem, or in case I see Webs to be a possible issue, I do have Defog on Mandibuzz. Not too much else to go over on this thing. It's just relatively standard, physically defensive, can take 2 of any hit from Mega Lopunny, which is really, really nice. It also takes on the Serena easily, it takes on things like the Honchkrow perfectly. Even special attackers like Latios and Salazzle are not going to be able to OHKO this thing, which is very nice. I can beat some forms of Silvally. It's just a really good wall for his team, and if I'm able to keep hazards off the field, I'll be able to keep this thing around a long time, and I'll be able to annoy the hell out of him with the Rocky Helmet. So that's Mandibuzz. Now we're going to move on to our next big win condition, and that is going to be our Snorlax. So this spread I came up with that it seemed like this kind of just seemed like the best spread I can bring against his team. This is so that after a curse, after 2 curses, I am not too KO'd by Mega Lopunny's high jump kick, which is very nice. As you can see here, we have Body Slam, Curse, Rest, Sleep Talk. He does not have a Ghost on his team, so I will be able to just spam Body Slam across the entirety of his team. And this is just a gigantic win condition. There's very little he can do to actually stop this thing. He would have to get in Mega Lopunny before I start cursing up, and he'd possibly have to trick me with Latios, maybe switcheroo me with Togekiss, or Encore me with Togekiss. That's pretty much all you can do, because even if we bring Serena with Drop Kick and it continuously lowers my attack, I'm still going to be able to boost my defense to +6, and I'll still be able to spam Body Slam against him until I eventually crit him, or if I get the Paralyzation and I'm able to get some para hacks going my way. And Serena I do have multiple responses to in things like my Heatran, my Mandibuzz, my Dragalge, my Mega Sizzler, so Serena isn't really that big of a problem to me. Basically, the whole plan behind this team was get rid of Latios and then pick a win condition in either Snorlax or Reuniclus. If Mega Lopunny is kind of an issue, Reuniclus is probably going to be my win con, and then if any other situation arises, then Snorlax is going to be my win con. But both of these two Pokemon have the potential to really just completely beat his team. So I'll try and eliminate the counters that I can that these things have, and then I'll be able to sweep with one of them relatively easily. But with that being said, we're not completely done with the team. We now have to move on to our Heatran. And this is the fastest thing on my team. It's 77 speed, 264 in total. We have a Gracian Z Heatran with Lava Plume, Solar Beam, Earth Power, and Stealth Rock. Obviously, Solar Beam gives me a very powerful Bloom Doom, a base 190 Bloom Doom, which is very, very nice. Stealth Rock is there because I like having Stealth Rock on my teams. Lava Plume, again, for general stab, as well as just to burn things that might want to switch in. Like, if he wants to switch in his Rhyperior on this thing, I have the chance to burn that, which is very nice. Bloom Doom Solar Beam is pretty much only there for the Rhyperior, however, it also is very nice for a possible Lantern if that wants to come. It also does more damage to Volcanion than a super effective Earth Power, which is kind of nice. Suppose he brings like Silvally Ground or something like that, Silvally Water even, I will be able to Bloom Doom that thing, so you know, Solar Beam definitely makes sense there. The speed that I have on it is enough to outspeed a timid max speed Volcanion. I don't know if he would want to bring like a Scarf Volcanion, but if he does bring Scarf Volcanion, I should be able to live a Steam Eruption from it, just because of Heatran's massive natural bulk. Also, I wanted a Stealth Rocker, and this seemed like the best Stealth Rocker to have on the team. My other Stealth Rockers include things... The only other Stealth Rocker on my team is Lycanroc, and I didn't think it had a great matchup this game, so I decided to go with Heatran instead, just because it is a relatively reliable Stealth Rocker, and it puts on a lot of offensive pressure versus his team. So that's going to be the team that we have built for Danekii. Let me know what you think in the comment section below about the team. Like I said, I know this is basically the biggest fat team, or like the fattest team that I've ever built in my life. I feel like it's going to be fine versus him. The team, my roster in general is like really, really fat, and I have no idea why I started to build it like that. I do have the Zygarde 10% as a fast sweeper, but I didn't think it had the best matchup in the world this game. Definitely had potential, but when he has things like Mega Lopunny that can outspeed me and kill me, when he has possibilities like Scarf Latios, when he has things like Togekiss that can take me on, like Fortress, I felt like it wasn't the best matchup in the world. He also had Serena, which could have been a big threat to my team. And could have been a very good stop to Zygarde, but regardless, that is going to be the team. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video as well. I will see you guys in the match that'll be going up on Thursday, the day after that this is uploaded, so hope you're looking forward to that. Like I said, check out Danekii in the description below, and I will see you in the game.